What comes to mind when you hear the term RPG horror story? Videos like mine have probably led you to believe that a horror story has to be something truly horrific. Controlling or inappropriate DMs, mean or spotlight-hogging players, games so awful that the players who play them never want to touch the system ever again. But in my humble opinion, I think that sometimes the horror stories can just be some bad dice rolls. No that guys, no that girls, no traumatic events. Just some really unfortunate RNG. I have terrible RPG luck, it seems. By user, NoxHigh24. Hey, so I figured I'd give this sub a break from cringed players and DMs by explaining my weekend and how I had abysmal luck over 3 games, each with a different game system, and give you all a good laugh at my utter misfortune. So, I joined 3 different campaigns recently, which are being run by some college buddies. They all started recently, and even though I have had terrible luck, I still really enjoy my sessions and think these will be the highlight of my week. I enjoy the people I play with and the DMs. Let's start with Game 1. The first game is a survival game, utilizing the Ryutama system. For those who don't know Ryutama, it's a system that emphasizes journeys and travel with unique conditions that affect your missions. It's a rather light-hearted game, but the DM decided to use it to run a survival horror show. The gist of the plot is me and 2 other players getting shipwrecked on an island where the local fauna does everything in its power to kill us, with the objective of finding survivors of said wreck and getting perks for our base with the goal of getting off the island. I was an excited, axe-wielding, experienced traveler. After surviving a night of almost getting eaten by velociraptors with a healing factor, we made our way into a local cave to find possible survivors. After running from what was Bat Voltron, we found a survivor in a big web, and the big spider was about to eat her. The spider stepped on me, dealing half of my HP after I missed it terribly. One of the players, though, decided to light the thing on fire. Good news, it killed it in one go. Bad news, big burning spider corpse in small cave. After regretting the decision immediately, we ran out of the area and ran right into Bat Voltron. I missed horribly again, hitting it and got backhanded into unconsciousness and almost killed. Luckily, the smoke drove it away and my party got my body out. So basically, I almost died and my compatriots got out faring much better. Game 2 was Delta Green, aka XCOM meets Call of Cthulhu. The game was an SCP game, and I was a PhD anthropologist with high charisma and intelligence. The first hour, our alchemist Australian, who was busy tearing our warehouse apart for spells to keep spiders away and balance out our feng shui, don't ask, took the pins off a door hinge and dropped the door on me. After failing a dodge roll, I became the first player in our campaign to be injured. I also failed a persuasion check when I had the highest persuasion in our party. This was probably the least unlucky thing to happen, but looking back, it just proved that this weekend was cursed for me. The third game was 5e. And even though it was the most generic of the games, it had the most cursed outcome for me. I was a Pallid Elf sorcerer, and I entered a cave with a dwarf paladin and a Gist fighter. Side note, this was my first D&D game ever. I never played D&D, and thus this was my first time actually legit playing. So our party goes into a mine to clear out some kobolds. Right away our luck was bad because our fighter couldn't roll high enough to hit anything for the first 3 enemies we fought. Also, our DM, who is infamous for having insane luck when rolling enemies, was rolling 15s and higher. Heck, one of the kobolds rolled a nat 20 to defend against one of my spells. And I think each enemy I used my psychic spell against, DC 14 save, managed to get saved. So we go deeper into the cave and find out that the kobolds are actually just trying to find a place to survive and are rather chill. We also learn that there is a monster in the cave. After leaving and going back up to find potential miners who got stuck inside mine, the dwarf got trapped by a grell. I, the sorcerer, used ice magic to give him a chance to break out, which he did. The grell then attacked me and one-shotted me. I had 7 health cause sorcerer, and rolled a failure on my first death save. The dwarf, who took the 1 in 20 chance of me rolling a 1 and as an acceptable risk, attacked the grell. The grell then turned and rolled a nat 20 to hit him. Dwarf had an AC of 18 and rolled an 8 for damage, which knocked him out too. The fighter, who now found himself alone, was having extremely poor luck in hurting the grells. Fortunately, the kobolds we met rushed in and threw their spears at the grell, and all 3 completely missed. Yeah, the DM only has insane luck when it came to hurting us. Their next turn, they managed to score a single hit, and that kobold rolled a 0 for damage. Eventually, out of fear of a TPK session 1, the DM had the kobolds pack up on the Grell and doubled their damage, thus killing it. The paladin healer rolled 3 saves in a row, I rolled 3 failures in a row, and each roll was less than 5. Third one was a 1. Before you ask, everyone was more focused on not getting murked by the Grell and didn't have time to stabilize me, so don't blame them for me dying, please. So my first ever D&D boss fight ended with me dead. Luckily, the DM threw me a bone and had a divine being take notice of me and bring me back in return for me doing something for it later on, which is probably going to end up terrible, but the thing was a being of order, so at least it won't involve me breaking any laws. So in the end, I have an RP reason for possibly becoming a Sorlock. Also, the DM was planning on introducing the Divine much later on, but had to bring them in now because I had that bad luck and he had that good luck. The DM also felt really bad about what happened, and he decided he was going to rebalance the enemies with his insane luck in mind, so something like this doesn't happen again. Anyway, according to the laws of TRPG RNG, I should be rolling highs next weekend, right? 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 First of all, can I just say I relate a little bit too much to that poor DM in the last story? I also tend to have the most absurd luck when I'm rolling against my players. And I hate it, it's the worst, it always makes me feel evil, and I don't want to be evil, I just want to play the bad guys, not be the bad guy. So that DM, I feel you so hard, man, you're not alone. I hope you all enjoyed this more lighthearted type of horror story. I felt like we could all use a bit of a break from the more egregious and horrifying horror stories that I typically find. And I felt like this was a nice little treat to do so. I think it's important to remember sometimes that the most common horror story is just bad RNG. Oh no. I also thought this was a perfect video to start testing out using my new assets. If you haven't been looking on screen, I have a new little persona that I'm now going to be including in these videos. A new little mascot, if you will. This character was actually originally going to be my DM sona, for lack of a better term, and I figured why not just upgrade that to persona. So you may be seeing him in the reading videos from now on, but let me know what you think in the comments down below. As always, a big thank you to all of my patrons that have been scrolling on the screen this whole time. And an especially big thank you to my new $50 patron, Banana Blotti. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And I hope you enjoy being the very first in Zodiacs. That's all for now, my lords, ladies, and lieges. Comment and leave a like if you like this video, maybe subscribe for some more content, and I will see you all in the next video. Zodiac, out.